But yeah, so companions, we did get the classic companions, Tegan, Ace. I had a little bit of concern, like bringing them in, and like I don't really. These are characters I don't care about necessarily. Are they going to take up time? I will give it to them. Didn't bother me. I actually enjoyed them. I thought they both did a good job. Like I thought they didn't. It didn't feel like, oh, these are actors who haven't acted in a while, and it's kind of
Yeah.
OP. Like they've kind of fit right in. They both had, I liked how their characters shone through. Like Ace was very Ace like based on what I had seen of Ace in
Yeah.
previous stuff. I haven't watched all her stuff, but I have seen some. Tegan I had never seen as a companion before, but you is almost like you didn't need to see
Right.
her stuff to know she had a chip on her shoulder. She had
Yeah.
beef with the doctor.
Yep.
It was like, yeah. So I thought they used them well. And the more I thought about it too, it's like this is supposed to be a centenary, special or something
Yeah.
kind of celebrating more than just one doctor's time. So the fact that they brought these older companions back kind of made more sense the more I thought about it.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, they used them well, right? Like ultimately, again, like so many different aspects of this episode, like the details, like what actions they took and like how they were involved with moving things forward. To me, it makes it's of less value than or lesser value than like the role they played. I think they set things up for Yaz in the Doctor very well because very early on, Yaz is introduced with two companions who've been left behind, haven't seen the Doctor in years, and the fact that they call out Yaz and they say, "We were you 20, 30 years
Mhm.
ago," or however long they said, like that is for nothing else, like that is their role to show Yaz that like the Doctor leaves you, and that's just what happens. I
It's
mean, they
almost
do
sad.
other things, but that is
Yeah.
what it is.
It's almost sad too because the reality was setting in, I think, with Yaz,
Yeah.
where it's almost like, ooh, I'm not that special. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm special and I have a special relationship with the doctor, but so do all these other people. I'm just one more. Just add me to the list, And I think it
Right.
was kind of starting to dawn on her, which we'll talk about the regeneration in a little bit, but I think it kind of helped maybe her acceptance of the doctor leaving because she was kind of coming to the realization that, yeah, even if I do have feelings for the doctor, it's not going to be what I want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. I think in that moment it starts to move Yaz that direction, right? It starts to create maybe not a healthy disconnect, but it starts to create a distance. And you can see it in that scene. And the fact that it, and maybe this is me just reading too much into it, but the fact that it's not like two or three male companions that are saying this, but
Right.
that it's very two strong female companions that are like, it doesn't matter. Like we haven't heard from the Doctor in so long. To Yaz, who is another strong female companion. I think that in and of itself speaks volumes.
Right. Yeah. The big surprise for me in this episode was the doctor kind of in that in between. She's
Yeah,
regenerating, but she's still not quite over the edge. And they have a visualization of what that looks like. And the doctor previous versions of the doctor are
yeah,
there, kind of talking to her, kind of giving her a pep talk, like, hey, you're not done yet. And it it was so unexpected.
yeah,
And you get, the first doctor, you get
yep,
that initially, and you're like, okay, we've seen him a couple of times recently, not a huge deal that he popped up. I was like, oh, that's cool.
right,
But then suddenly faces start switching. We get these other actors, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like Sylvester McCoy, like what's happening?
yeah,
Paul McGann. I was suddenly so excited to see these faces that I was not expecting to see,
yeah,
and the fact that they found a way to bring them in to this special and have it still make sense.
yeah, yeah,
And the fact that they look way older didn't bother me. Who cares? They don't look the same
yeah,
anymore. It's just the way it is. But they didn't get, they weren't necessarily part of the 50th anniversary. They didn't get to do kind of what Tom Baker got to do, and so to be able to give these guys the opportunity, and it's like all the previous, like, what was it, 5, 6, 7, 8, right,
yeah, yeah,
of the Doctor. So it's the last ones before the new series. So and Paul McGann, like, my thoughts on that, like how wasted he was with just the one
Yep.
special. So to
Yeah.
just see him in the back and forth between him and like the doctor talking to, the fact he doesn't wear robes and just the whole scene, I was literally like
Yeah.
clapping because I was so excited what they did there.
Yeah, I mean it was fantastic, right? And yes, they're older, like you mentioned, but they're still recognizable. And that's like the minute they show up on screen, it's like I know exactly who they are and what they're doing. And it was so special to have these doctors that, like you mentioned, haven't been in other things here recently. And then to have the older companions and like it seemed like it was paying a very gracious homage to those who have come before. It wasn't overly flashy. It wasn't the TARDISes flying around and like all these faces showing up on
Yeah.
screens. It was just like a very very calm, very
And
gracious
it gave them
homage to like what.
time. It
Yeah,
gave them time to play the character. And
yeah,
it wasn't just like you said, we've seen their faces flash up before, or we've seen, the scene where all the TARDISes come together. Like we've seen that, but to actually give them lines and give them
yeah,
moments, funny things to say, meaningful conversation with their previous companions. Like we got to see that now in a different way. The doctor had this thing that she had prepared,
yeah,
where if she ever died or like whatever, she could leave this for Yaz. But that program was smart enough to change its faces and stuff. So it was kind of a clever way to give them the opportunity to talk to their previous companions. So you got, Ace and Tegan both got to see the doctor again, quote
yeah.
unquote, essentially see the doctor again and kind of get a little bit more closure,
Yep.
which was probably really cool for those actors too,
Yeah.
to get
Oh,
to,
absolutely.
yeah.
That's to have so much time go by and then to revisit your character that you played how many years ago, face to face, like
Yeah.
one last time. Yeah, that's special. It was again, as you mentioned, like it's not so much like the frantic pace of moving through the episode. It's not like all the action that takes place. It's these different moments, these different set pieces that really makes the episode stand out in my mind, and also makes it super special.
Yeah, when they did this whole scene with the old doctors, that won me over. It wouldn't have mattered. The rest of the episode before and after could have been horrible, but that scene, I was like, okay, I'm on board. This is cool. I'm
Yeah,
glad they did it this way. Um, oh yeah, so we also got Jo Martin. So we did get
yeah,
the opportunity to see her, the fugitive doctor. Now, debatable because I think we had not a bet, but we kind of talked about how long until we see her again. I think you and I did. I forget what we guessed, but I think you had guessed sooner rather than later.
yeah. I said sooner
Um,
rather than later. Yeah,
I thought maybe they'd give it some time, but this is a version of her. It wasn't actually her.
I
It was
know.
just that program
Right.
presenting as her. But we did
Yeah.
get to see the fugitive doctor again, which I thought was nice because, that's a character that was important for Jodie Whittaker's run in another version of the doctor that was important. So I'm glad that we got to see a little bit with her too.
Yeah, and I mean, she owns whatever scene she shows up in. Like, really, she does. There's such like gravitas that as she walks in, and yes, it's a projection. It's not real. We know that as the audience, but she commands the whole scene at that moment. It's like when she walks in the room, nothing can touch her. Quite literally in the scene, nothing can touch her because
I don't
she's
even
not
remember
really
what
there.
I'm trying to remember now the context of when she returned and what she talked about or why she was there at the time she was there. I can't remember. I'll have to
No,
rewatch the episode,
it,
but I just
it
remember she
she,
was there.
yeah, like she walks in and it's like all the dogs or Cybermen surround her and shoot at her, and it's like literally goes through her, and
Yeah,
all the
it's like a
dogs fall
decoy.
down.
They kind of,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
and then she like gives a wink, and then she like just fades out, and it's like she's a
Yeah,
boss. She
no,
knows
that
she knows
that
what's
was
up.
that was very cool.